and welcome to the Hot Seat of College Football Show. I am Trent, your host, on a beautiful, surprisingly warm Friday afternoon, as we are only 3 hours away when this video comes on, maybe only like an hour or two away from the kickoff of Week 12 of the college football season, with Clemson heading up the road to face Louisville. This is after the whistle, so I'm going to give you all my predictions and bets. I'm not going to place any money, but my predictions and previews for the top 10 games coming into this week. Let us talk about it. So, quick note, before we even get into the video, remember to subscribe, hit the notification bell. I want to get to 40 subs before we play, before rivalry week, before Ohio State plays Michigan. So that would be great. We're 9 away. We're at 31 currently. And also, if you are an Ohio State fan and watching this, I just released my Ohio State versus UCLA prediction video, and for some reason, YouTube will not promote it. That video is never going to, I don't know why, at least for now, it is not going to show up on your feed. So if you are an Ohio State and a UCLA fan and you want to see that video, I worked very hard on the thumbnail. I'm upset it's not getting promoted. I'm going to pin the video right here. It'll be the second most recent, it'll be the video posted right before this. Please go watch that video. I think I talked a lot about the storylines coming to this game, and I put a lot of effort in the video, and for some reason, YouTube just won't promote it. So, if you are an Ohio State fan, go watch a video, but we're not going to talk about this game. So if you're interested, you gotta go watch that video, not this one. We're talking about what I think are the top 10 games for this week. So let's just start off. What do we want to do first? Let's do the one you guys are probably all waiting. Let's do Texas, Georgia. So Texas will be heading on the road to face Georgia as a 6.5-point dog. They were slight favorites in the SEC championship, and then favorites, I don't remember how big. I think it was a bigger favorite. When they faced Georgia at home in Austin, both times Georgia won. And actually the first time in Austin, Georgia put belt ass on Texas. So now that it's in Athens, there's good weather, so don't be like, well, I don't think there's going to be bad weather, so whoever wins, I don't think it's going to have an impact. But yeah, Georgia's the 6.5-point favorite, and the over-under is only at 49, which is kind of predicting like a high 20. I feel like this could be a shootout. I think this is going to be kind of like what we saw from Texas, Mississippi State. Maybe not like overtime, but like Ole Miss, Georgia, that game 43-30. Like a game in the 30s, because coming into this year, both of these teams were supposed to be like defensive teams with great defenses, and I still think Texas is very talented. I think Georgia their program is like their defensive program, but I don't think they're a defensive team. I don't think that Texas defense has lived up at all. I don't know why that is. But even Florida kind of went all up and down on them, and they couldn't do anything against Kentucky. So their defense has gotten better. You just allowed, 38 points to Mississippi State, and then 21 unanswered points in the fourth quarter, 31 against Vanderbilt. So, I don't really know what Texas defense we're going to get tomorrow night. I think it's going to be a better one. I think it'll be an okay Texas defense. But I really think this is going to be an offensive shootout. I think this could be one of the games of the year. Obviously, this is not a must-win game for Georgia. If they're wanting to host a playoff game, or they're wanting to get to the SEC championship, they're already going to need help. They're going to have A&M to lose. And they'll need Bama to lose, 2 more conference games, because they already have a head-to-head win over them. And Bama's loss is non-conference anyways. So they would need Bama to lose twice. So they already need a little bit of help to get there with A&M. But for Georgia, if they were able to beat Texas and the Texas were to beat Texas A&M, which actually that's what I think is probably going to happen actually. That's how Georgia gets to Atlanta to face what we would assume to be Alabama in the SEC championship. I think Bama with a win tonight, I think secures a spot in the SEC championship, because I think Georgia. I think this might be Georgia's last conference game. Let me make sure, because I know Georgia Tech is non-conference. Yeah, so this is actually Georgia's final SEC game. They have Charlotte, then Georgia Tech. So those are both non-conference games. And next year, that Charlotte game, the SEC is going to move to 9 conference games, so they're not going to have this like FCS or low level group of 5 team in like week 14 or week 13. So yeah, this is it for Georgia. Texas still has a couple more games. They got to face A&M and then I think Arkansas. So they got 2 more after Georgia. But if Texas wins out, they're in the SEC championship because they would be 10-2 with their one SEC loss to Florida, and they would have had wins over A&M and Georgia, who are in 2nd and 3rd place in the SEC, or like around there. So if Texas wins out, they're going to the SEC title to face what we would assume to be Alabama. But I don't know. This is an eliminator game for Texas. I think 3-loss Texas could get in, but a couple things would have to happen. Miami would have to probably drop another game, and maybe Notre Dame would have to drop another game. Maybe not Notre Dame. I think maybe Miami would have to drop another game, because if Notre Dame's going to get in at 10-2 and Miami's 10-2, I think Miami's going to get in over Notre Dame, or both of them are going to get in. But if you're going to be, it has to be the right 9-3. It has to be either, you have to beat Georgia. If you are 9-3 with a win over Georgia and Vanderbilt, but you lost to A&M, it's like, okay, well, it's going to be 10-2 Georgia versus 9-3 Texas. Well, both have 2 SEC losses. Texas has to win over Georgia on the road, and the only reason why Texas has 3 losses is because they played an out-of-conference game versus the number 1 team in the country on the road. So now, are we going to kick Texas out for doing that? Well, I don't think they would. So I'm not saying Texas would get in, but I think Texas would get in over Georgia. This committee has showed that there are a lot of eye tests, and they haven't they don't seem to value head-to-head as much, which I think is crazy. But I think Texas could sneak in at 9-3 if they beat Georgia. Or if they beat Georgia and A&M but lose to Arkansas, maybe if it's a close loss to Arkansas, maybe they would get in at 9-3. So how do I think this game is going to go? Again, I think it's going to be a very offensive-led game. Michael Taft will play in this game, or not Michael, Anthony Hill will play in this. I think both of them are going to, Texas's defense is healthier. So I think both of those guys are going to play. I think Anthony Hill or Mike, oh my God, one of them had an injury. I don't know which one, but they should both be back. So look at a step up from Texas's defense. But again, I think Arch has gotten better. I don't know what Arch we're going to see. Stockton has been very efficient. I'm not going to say, I know he's like up in Heisman. I'm not going to say he's a Heisman winner or even maybe a New York. I don't think he's going to be in New York. But I think he is definitely a contender. I think he is solid. He has 15 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. So my prediction for this game, I think Georgia is going to win something like 34-27, maybe 30-27. I could see this game maybe going to overtime. I think Texas is going to come out swinging. Actually, well, I don't know. If Georgia gets down, like I said this last week. If Georgia wants to play, Georgia wants to play, and they played it against Mississippi State. I just don't think Mississippi State is going to allow them to come back. And they kind of did, but not really. They were down 7, but then they came back. Like, they weren't down 10 at halftime. So if you're going to be down 10 at halftime, I don't think you're going to be able to come back versus this Texas team. I've seen Georgia kind of move away from that style of gameplay a little bit. I don't think they're going to play like that just because Texas still is a very talented team. There's no way Georgia can gloss over this game. And even if I'm going to take Georgia, and I guess I would take Georgia to cover to win by a score. So they're covered by the hook. I'm going to take Georgia 34-27. So that'll bring us to our second game, where a revenge game from last year, as Oklahoma will now be rematching with Alabama. Remember, this was the game that knocked Alabama out of the playoff last year. Oklahoma destroyed Alabama 24-3. But Bama has a 71.4% chance to win this game, according to ESPN's matchup predictor. this thing's always wobbly, but I like to throw out the stat because, it's kind of like a feel-good stat. Whenever you see your team's favored by how much, it makes you feel good. So I'll let all you Bama fans know you guys seem to be heavily favored in this game. A common thing I've seen this week is there is a lot of teams favored by 6.5. There are 3 currently on my big board, or actually 4. 4 out of my top 10 games are all 6.5 point spreads. So the real question is, do I think that all 6.5 point spread guys, it's technically under a touchdown, and usually when you have spreads under a touchdown, it's not going to just be chalk. It's not going to be the favorite to win every time. There's usually 1 or 2 upsets. I'm going to anticipate that, and this could be a trouble spot for Alabama. Yes, this game is at home. Last year was in Norman. But for this game, look, what has been Kalen DeBoer's struggle throughout his entire career, at least in his past 2 spots? It has been running quarterbacks. He has lost to practically every single running quarterback they've played. Even back at Washington, remember the national title, J.J. McCarthy, a running quarterback. I don't remember if he ran for that much for them. Here, let me see. No, that was I want to see the national title game. Let me see McCarthy's stats. This guy, God, McCarthy is not a good quarterback. Yeah, 4 for 31. So, that's 7.8. So he's rushing for 2 or 3 probably third downs in that game, which is why it kind of got out of hand for Washington. But even in Alabama, remember last year, which is funny because they have Milroe, so their defense goes against one of the best rushing quarterbacks in practice. They should be able to know how to stop it, but they didn't last year. Thomas Castellanos ran all up and down them. Diego Pavia last year. Even Nico Imaliava at times. Lenora Sellers, even though they've won the past 2 years against them, they've been able to run, have good yardage there. So really, Bama has struggled a lot versus running quarterback threats. And obviously, Mateer is one of the better running quarterbacks in the country. I don't think he's better than like DeMond Williams or who's the other running quarterback? I guess you would say Fernand. I don't think Mendoza can scramble. I don't think he's a running quarterback. Mateer is a dual threat quarterback. So look, it's nice. It is real nice that Mateer, I think, can pose some threats on them. But also, it's just, he has 8 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. He's almost pulling a Jameis Winston stat. So, yeah, I don't know. But, yeah, I think, I want to see the matchup between Bama being able to stop a rushing threat quarterback. So, I don't know if, is John Mateer going to rush for 4 or 5 touchdowns and that's how they're going to outscore Bama? No. And ever since Mateer's thumb injury, I have not seen Mateer... I'm not very afraid of Oklahoma's passing offense. Yes, I think Satania is a good receiver. But, I don't know. Just that thumb is going to be as healthy as it is. I think this is kind of like but I don't know. I felt Mateer was always overrated. I thought that, it's weird because, oh my God. Mateer came from Washington State. Cam Ward was also there at Washington State. He left, became the number 1 overall draft pick. Now here comes another quarterback from Washington State. Now at Oklahoma, he's gonna win the Heisman. And then I never thought he was great even before the injury, but whatever. But yeah, this defense. Look, Oklahoma's defensive line up front is great, but. Look, Oklahoma, you had a good win against Tennessee, but statistically, you didn't, you had a lot less. Tennessee kind of gave you that game, almost dominated you. Texas dominated you, and that was with Mateer. Mateer hasn't looked much better even since then. He's looked better, but not much better. So, I'm going to take Alabama. I'm going to take Alabama to win. I think, I said Georgia would cover. I think Georgia actually covers. I think Bama wins by probably 14. So I'm going to say they are going to win something like 28-14. I'm going to say Bama 28-14. I think they're having another impressive win, and this will also be an eliminator game. So for Oklahoma and Texas, winner, I guess Texas has the win over Oklahoma, so there's still technically a chance, but this is pretty much an elimination game. This would have been Oklahoma's third loss in the SEC. So, yeah. So I'm going to take Alabama to win and cover. The next game is going to be Notre Dame Pitt. And there's not much to say about this game. Like, Notre Dame's going to win this game. They're favored by 12.5, and I'm not surprised it's gone up. The story has been the Pitt's head coach, Pat Narduzzi. He came out and said that he doesn't care if Notre Dame wins 110-10, which I get, because even if Notre Dame, Pitt will never get in as an at-large because they already have 2 losses. If they're 11-2, they're not going to get in. Or they would be 10-3. If they're 10-3 and lose the ACC, even if it's close, they're not going to get in. They're barely ranked. So they really, they have to win the ACC title. And when I heard him say it, I'm like, okay, I get what you're saying. You shouldn't say it in public. Your team shouldn't be able to hear that. That is like when your parents are getting divorced. You don't tell your kids that. You don't tell your kids your financial situation, even if it's a valid statement. Maybe you're struggling. Your kids don't need to hear that. That does no good. And that's kind of what he did. He let his players hear the thing that, like, Paul Feinbaum. Like, the reason why Paul Feinbaum isn't a head coach is because he says stupid shit all the time, even if it's right. Like, sometimes morally, you should just shut up. Like, ignorance is bliss. You know that statement, ignorance is bliss? This is one of these situations. Your players don't need to hear that. And yes, it's true. And even when I heard it at first, there was a bit of shock value where I'm like, no, he's completely wrong. And then I look more into the situation. I look at the rest of their schedule. They're going to have to play Miami. They have 4 consecutive games if they completely win out. It's Notre Dame. I think it's Miami, then Georgia Tech. I don't know what the order is. It's Notre Dame, then at Georgia Tech, then Miami, and then if they win out, win those 2 ACC games, it's the ACC title. That is brutal. It is like Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, Miami, then a rematch versus either Miami or Georgia Tech or Louisville or Virginia. So that's a brutal schedule. So I would not say 110-10 because remember, it's not the ACC could get left out. It's just the highest ranked Power 5, or not the highest 5 ranked conference championships, which is absolutely stupid. But you could still get left out if you could beat 110-10. They're going to put in a second group of 5 team over you. I don't know to tell you, but that's absolutely embarrassing if you got beat like that. So you shouldn't be saying that anyways. But with the schedule coming up, it probably makes sense to play a little bit more conservative and to maybe rest some starters if you're down 14 in the second half. The problem is game day's coming here. We know how we all complain about game day only going to SEC games. This was one of the weeks I'm like, game day, maybe you should go to Georgia, Texas. Like maybe you shouldn't have went to last week was BYU, Texas Tech. Then it was what before those, Utah, Cincinnati. Like before that, you should have went to I don't know. What did they even go? They went to Ole Miss, Oklahoma. They should have went to USF Memphis because that was like a playoff race game. So that was a Friday. I don't know. This is one of the weeks where I think game day should have went to an SEC game or just Bama, Oklahoma or something, because this game is going to be a blowout because Pitt's not going to come out. Maybe they're playing whatever. They're not going to play. I don't think they're playing mind tricks. Mason Heinzenschel, the Ohio native that got put over Eli Holstein, they've played much better since. But again, I can't expect much from Pitt when their head coach doesn't even seem interested. They're not going to play hard. They're not going to show anything. They're going to bench all their starters. So I'm going to take Notre Dame to win 34-10. I'm going to take them to win. I'm going to say 34-14. I think Notre Dame wins by 20. They're 12.5 point favorites, so that means Notre Dame covers. So yeah. The next game is Iowa heading on the road to USC. And before I sound like an idiot, look at the weather. So, because that is a big part of this game. It sounds like it's, even though it's Southern California, sounds like it's going to be pouring rain. When is this game happening? Is it a night game? No, this is 3:30. So, let me see. Yeah, from 3 to 6 is going to be raining 82%. So it's going to rain. They're not making it seem like what type of rain. It just says rain. It's not like heavy rain. But it sounds like it's not going to be great weather. Obviously, Iowa is coming off that emotional loss to Oregon. USC having that decent win over Northwestern. That actually was a close game. And Jada Maeva making an incredible turnover. That's the quarterback forcing a touchback after a pick, which was a great play and smart play by him. Great decision making. But USC, again, they're favored by 6.5. And they are also heavy favored to win this game. And the trend that I've noticed is like every week there's been 2 to 3 upsets for the past month. And it's always the upsets that you least expect. Like, it's not Texas going to upset Georgia. It's not Oklahoma upset Bama. It's not like Duke upsetting Virginia, even though that seems like they're heavily favored in this game. It's always like Iowa beats USC, or like last week. Like Iowa State beat TCU. TCU is a heavy favorite. Or Wake Forest beat Virginia, or Cal beat Louisville. And I think with the weather, I think Iowa being a little bit galvanized, I think Iowa's better than people think. I think Iowa's going to be able to make this a really tough game, being able to run the ball. Now that USC has the ability to run the ball, they've been doing it more often. And in the rain, I think USC makes a couple mistakes. And I'm going to say it. I think Iowa's going to win this game. I said that last week against Oregon. And my biggest thing with Iowa is because in their 3 losses versus Iowa State, in week 2, their loss to Indiana, and then their other home loss to Oregon, nobody scored more than 20. It was 16-13, 20-15, 20-13 pretty much, and 18-16. No one scored more than 20 on Iowa. I mean, Penn State did, but then they beat Penn State. So, I have to trust Iowa's defense, which is crazy that it's like a hot take. It's Iowa's defense. But, yeah, I'm going to pick Iowa to actually upset and win this game, which will most certainly mean the Big Ten's only going to get 3 teams in now, because USC is the last contender with only 2 losses. I guess Michigan, too, if Michigan were to beat Ohio State. But USC has to win over Michigan. So, yeah, I think that practically means the Big Ten only gets 3 in unless Ohio State loses last week of the year or the season. So, yeah, I'm going to pick Iowa to upset I'm going to pick Iowa to upset USC. So, I'll take us to our next game. Let's do Virginia heading on the road at Duke, and I am so excited for this game. Duke is a 4.5-point favorite. This is one of the most interesting matchups, I think, the entire week, because the ACC, they're calling it the doomsday situation. The ACC might mess up the entire playoff. Duke is 5-4. But they're 4-1 in the ACC. They have one of the most interesting resumes in the entire sport. So let me open up their schedule. So their 4 losses. They have 1 conference loss. That was to Georgia Tech, which I thought they were going to win that game. They lost to Illinois. They got blown out. They lost to Tulane, and they lost to UConn last week. So they have 4 losses. But they're 4-1 in the ACC, which means they could make the ACC championship as a 4-loss team, which is unranked. They could win, be a 9-4 conference champion, be unranked or below. They're already gonna be ranked below the Group of 5 representative, but they might be ranked below the second Group of 5 team, which means you would get 2 Group of 5 teams in. Which honestly, you know how people say sometimes you have to have bad for now for the greater good? This is what I'm hoping. I'm hoping Duke wins the ACC. And I hope we get 2 group of 5 teams in the playoff. And I hope they all get blown up 55-0. So then we get no group of 5 teams in the playoff anymore. Because I would love to have James Madison at Georgia. I would love to have South Florida at Oregon. And they get absolutely ripped in half. I mean, the best group of 5 team we've seen in 5 years last year with Boise, they got demolished by they're a good Penn State team, but they're they're in the semis. Well, that's because they played 2 group of 5 teams. SMU was a group of 5 team 2 years ago, and Boise is a group of 5 team. So, or group of 6 to be politically correct, whatever. But now, if Duke can beat Virginia, they will be ahead of Virginia in the ACC, and they would probably rematch against Georgia Tech in the ACC title. And they would be 8-1 or 7-1 in the ACC. So that could be this game is so interesting. I wish this was a Friday night game because this game seems so much like a Friday night game. And it's going to be on ESPN too, so it's not going to get a lot of coverage. But Duke is a 4.5 point favorite. I want Duke to win, but I think with Virginia coming off the loss to Wake Forest, and I like patterns. Duke's losses are when the game is super high scoring. When the other team is scoring 45, that's when they can't keep up. UConn, they lose. Georgia Tech almost scored 30, they lose. And for Virginia, they win shootouts. Louisville was a shootout. The Cal was a high-scoring game, but their losses to Wake Forest was a very low-scoring game. They won the North Carolina game, but that was a very low-scoring game. They had another win. Let me see what I think. I guess the Florida State game was a shootout. Stanford was a high-scoring game. The only one that they lost was NC State, but that was actually a non-conference game. So it doesn't technically count. But I think with these 2 defenses and these 2 offenses, I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, which I think favors Virginia. So I am going to take Virginia to beat Duke, which will send Virginia to 9-2, which means they will still be alive in the ACC. They'll have only one ACC loss, which almost makes them a lock for the ACC championship. Their remaining schedule is Duke and then at Duke and then Virginia Tech. So I think Virginia Tech is a disaster. So Virginia could very much be 10-2 with only one ACC loss, even though they've lost to 2 ACC teams. It would be 1 ACC loss. So I'm gonna pick Virginia. The next game I want to cover, let's do Clemson at Louisville, because this game's happening tonight in a couple hours. Let me just pull it up. So, again, a revenge type game. This is a very even matchup. Clemson is 4-5, 3-4 in the ACC, an absolute disaster. This seemed to this actually looks like it might be a very close game. Louisville's only favored by 1.5. And even the predictor, it's Louisville by 55%. It's 55-45. Louisville 7-2, 4-2 in the ACC. They are ranked. Clemson completely out of everything, only playing for pride. But last year, remember, even though Clemson got into the playoff as a 3-loss team, they were 10-3, won the ACC. They lost. They got blown out at home to Louisville. So I don't know. Louisville lost to Cal last week in overtime at home. Clemson lost to them. This kind of seems like this could be an upset game. It is a Friday game, so I was gonna talk more about this game than I am, but I'm just gonna I picked Louisville, but now that I'm thinking about it, usually when I start to think out loud about some of these games, I almost want to pick the other team because it's a Louisville game. Well, Louisville lost last week, so do I think they're gonna lose back-to-back games? Clemson can't stop anything. They just beat the crap out of Florida State. But, they got beat up by SMU and Duke. So, I don't know. I think the Cal game was a fluke because I think, I don't know. Cal, Sogla Pulete, I don't know how to pronounce his name. The 5-star freshman for Cal. I think he's very talented. I think Cade Klubnik, I think they've given up on this year. So I am gonna. It's a little bit of a safe bet. It's kind of like a pussy bet. I'm gonna go with Louisville to win in. I'm gonna say overtime. I think Louisville. Actually, no. I'm not gonna say overtime because they've lost both their overtime games. I think Louisville has a walk-off winner, kind of like the Georgia Tech game. So yeah, I'll say Louisville 27-24. So yeah, that's how I'm gonna predict that game. The next game we're gonna do. The last one I think I'm going to go deep depth and do is I think I'm going to do USF Navy. So this one, this USF's a big favorite. They're 10.5. Let me pull it up. Navy is 7-2, 5-1 in the American. I think they've had back-to-back losses, but they were due at North Texas, with lost by 14, and then an out-of-conference loss at Notre Dame, which no one expected they were going to win that game. But Byron Brown, not the best thrower. I mean, he does have people say that he's got good stats. So I think he is a underrated passer. I don't think he's a great passer. The question is Blake Horvath going to play this game? That's probably the thing everyone's wondering. I don't know. Let me see if there's any news. That playing against. I don't know. No, this is what I hate. You look up something and then I'm getting 55 billion articles and no one's giving you anything. But I don't know. I would assume. I think he's playing. I do not know for sure. But I think USF. I think they win. I think they cover. Their offense has been phenomenal. The only two losses they've had has been Memphis in a shootout, and then Miami. So. Yeah, I don't think Navy ships up offensively against any of those teams. And also, they lost to North Texas, and USF destroyed North Texas. I know it's head-to-head or whatever, but yeah, I'm going to go with USF to win. I'm going to have them to cover. The next games, BYU on the road at TCU. I think BYU is going to win this game. They're 3.5-point favorites. Again, I give up on TCU. You guys were so bad last week against Iowa State that I don't even want to talk about you. So I'm going to take BYU to win. Same with Utah. Baylor's been disappointing. They're 8.5-point favorites. I'm going to take Baylor to cover, but I'm going to pick Utah to win. Actually, no, I'm going to pick Utah to cover. I'm sorry. I don't know. I just got a feeling that Utah's going to win big. And then the last one, and actually I'll go a little bit in depth with this one. Cincinnati hosting Arizona. They're 6.5-point favorites, but I think that's too much. This Arizona offense has been really good. So I'm going to pick Cincinnati. I'm going to take Arizona to cover. I was going to take the over, but the over is at 56. So I would probably still take the over. I like doing overs for big spreads. It makes me feel bold. So to recap, Cincinnati over Arizona, Utah over Baylor, BYU over TCU, Louisville over Clemson, Virginia over Duke, USF over Navy, Iowa over USC in an upset, Notre Dame over Pitt, Bama over Oklahoma, and Georgia over Texas. That is all that I have for you guys in this video. If you've enjoyed watching, remember to hit subscribe, turn on the notification bell so you guys know the drill. And remember, hit the like button. Let me know down in the comments, who do you think is going to win? Who's going to have the biggest upset of the week? We will recap all these games on Sunday. And again, if you're an Ohio State fan, please go watch that Ohio State UCLA prediction video. For some reason, UCLA is not promoting it. I already pinned it up here so you can check. In the description, like when I put it up here, it takes you down to the description and you can click on the video. Yeah, I hope you guys all enjoyed watching that video, and I will see you guys on Sunday. Thank you. As always, go Bucks.